everyone, and welcome to the Supply Chain Conversations podcast. I'm Annabella.
I'm Mo.
And I'm Chris.
In this podcast, you'll find conversations about anything related to the supply chain.
And how we make sense of the business world.
And we'll explore what innovation looks like in practice.
So welcome on board and enjoy the conversation. In this episode, we were talking to Nader, who is an alumni at UWE, and he had a very inspiring story about leadership, working directly with manufacturers and managing a platform to help them deliver high value proposition.
Yeah, what an excellent guest he was. He has been talking about innovation and leadership, linking those in his organization. And just to catch up with one of our former students, our excellent former students, I must say, what a joy it was.
Indeed, and we hope you enjoy it too. Welcome to the podcast, Nader. Thank you very much for joining us today. I wanted to start this podcast by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you are up to right now.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this is going to be meaningful for the listener later on. My name is Nader. I'm a former student at UWE 3 years ago, actually. I studied business management. I'm born and raised in Saudi Arabia in a city called Domat Al Jandal, where this holds a lot of history. So it used to be Kidarite kingdom that was 800 years BC. So that's where I actually born and raised. I'm originally from Palestine, living in Saudi Arabia. This is in a quick, I would say, background about myself.
Wonderful. And what are you up to right now? So what kind of role do you have? Can you tell us a little bit about your current job, your current role?
Of course. So my background is I hold about 14 years of experience in business and marketing specifically. So currently I'm working in a semi-owned government company called Indeal. What I do is a marketing director and senior marketing director and communication. So I manage all kind of marketing activities and communication for the company, aligning with the stakeholders and shareholders and clients, inbound and outbound. So this is what kind of I do. We can definitely explore more details about the current role that I do, but this is in terms of designation and the company.
Thank you very much for that. So I want to start by asking you then, you told us you're an alumni. So could you tell us a little bit more about your student experience? So what was your most memorable experience at UWE?
Well, I don't know where to start, where to end, honestly, because there is a lot to say here. Honestly, choosing UWE, it was one of the, as an international student, you would have to go through the UCAS and choose between different universities. And there are many factors that could play a big role in choosing the university. For me, Bristol was actually, I don't think that I've done a mistake choosing UWE and Bristol specifically, because due to the many reasons related to the city and the university and the multicultural and diversity that it's promoting at UWE. Many memories, to be honest, starting from where I used to live in the student village and up to the business school where I used to take classes 7 a.m., 8 a.m. with Chris and Masoud in a strategy, the first one we cracked the week with, to the canteen, I would say, to the library, the facility of the university. I mean, there's lots of memories that we could talk about. I don't want to spend much on it, but I would say it's never easy to pass through that memories, honestly.
And okay. I'm guessing you miss it a little bit, just a little bit.
No, not a little bit, actually. Actually, not a little bit at all. I miss it a lot, to the extent where I came like multiple times to London post my graduation, and every time I visit the university, I tend to see the previous doctors that I interacted with, gather with the students that I met, and go around the Bristol just to bring back the memories. So no, actually, not a little bit, a lot, I would say.
Oh, that's really nice.
And I genuinely mean it. I genuinely mean it.
This is really nice. So having that in mind, and you were telling us before about your new role as an ambassador to UK students or students studying abroad in UK. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
course. Look, as an active member on LinkedIn, I have nearly 20,000 followers on my LinkedIn, so I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So I always see people posting about the alumni gathering from the Oxford, from the I don't know, INSEAD universities, Harvard, and others in Saudi Arabia. So I was, doing the due diligence. Is there anything related to UWE in Saudi? I googled like LinkedIn and Twitter, previously Twitter and X. Nothing, even the websites. So I decided to do the thing, to reach out to the alumni team at UWE and ask them, like, if I want to do an alumni gathering in Riyadh, does there any liability, or do you approve it? Like, do you have the blessing on that? They were welcoming, charming team. They replied very swiftly. And then I started to contact the alumni from LinkedIn, choosing UWE and then the alumni network. And surprisingly, I found like a substantial students or alumni actually in my current network. So I had this kind of quick conversation with them. Hello, UWE alumni. And I started the intro and so on. Everyone was talking to, they really appreciate the initiative because they feel like, there is no alumni for us, so why can't we do it? Until a moment, I started to reach out to really high profile individuals, alumni from UWE back to 1992, 1995, and so on, like really, really big people. So some of them, they asked me like, who you are, like, who do you represent yourself? Are you a freelancer? Do you work for the university? And that kind of like a wake-up call for me. So I felt like, right, okay, that's a really legitimate question that I need to address. I reach out, I communicate with the British Embassy, and I tell them about my initiative. Like what happened was really surprising. The ambassador himself, His Excellency, called to meet me. So I went to meet him, and he was like, look, we need more students like you. We love this initiative. And he gave me kind of like a gesture, and we took a photo and so on. And he said, look, we love this. We need more people like you advocating this, studying in the UK. We're going to funnel you through the right channels, which is the British Council, which is primarily looking into the education and promoting this study in the UK. And we had a discussion, like they were asking me like, what kind of benefit, like what's in it for you? I was like, nothing. I'm literally funding the whole thing on my own. And they asked me not to fund it because I was looking for a certain, a big venue to host students, catering, all sort of things. They said, you don't need to go through that. You don't need to fund it yourself. We're going to help you by offering you the the place and everything you need, the catering and etc. All facility will be available for me. From then, it reached out to the head of British Council in Saudi. He said, look, I need to meet this guy. And he was like, look, we love this initiative. We really want students like you. We don't have such a department for alumni. We think we need to pick it up in Saudi, especially that there is lots and lots of students are actually graduated from UK, different universities. So would you be like the ambassador for the study in the UK or advocate for study in the UK program? I said, with a pleasure. And then they sent me an agreement, and I signed it recently. And I haven't got the final response from them to have the, from a legal perspective, to use that title. But I can tell you off the record confidently that I am.
Wonderful. So in that sense, you're going to be giving a lot of advice to other students as well in your new role of what to do and study hacks and any skills that they need to develop. So the question is, what advice would you give to other students then?
Well, it's not just only to the students who wants to study. I've did this already before, and that was kind of like promoted my give it the high score to the British Council team. Majority of my students, when I came back from UWE, they asked me, how did you do it? Like, how was it? What's your experience? How much does it cost? All kind of questions that anybody would ask about. And when I tell them the experience is really simple, straight to the point. If you're eligible to apply, you can apply and you can continue your studies, whether it's postgrad, undergrad, and so on and so on. And I got 3 students studying in the UK currently, and I help them in doing the application. I would advise them, studying in the UK is really like, you probably can't see it because you live there and you live it day and day. But the people outside of the UK, they really appreciate studying in the UK. They really appreciate the education system in the UK because it's really robust. It's innovative. There is always change in the subject, up to date. I mean, if tomorrow there is something trending, the next year you will have a new subject to study, whether it's undergrad or postgrad. So there is always dynamic to what's happening around the world, not kind of some other universities around the world, which takes time to update their curriculums. So the first advice I would use in that sense is basically studying in the UK would really benefit your career path. It would really regard you highly, and you'll be on top of the applicants. Studying in the UK, it doesn't need to be, I would say, it's not a dream. It can be a reality. You just need to do it.
Mo, you have a question?
Yeah, Nadir. So my question relates to, I want you to put yourself back into the foot of a student. And obviously you sound like a high-powered, highly productive person. What would be the sort of the tactics that you would want if you could like start your educational journey again? What would be the 2 or 3 big ideas that you think, right, I would really advise students to do this, this, and this. So in terms of being a student, what would you advise?
100%. Look, the first thing first, I would advise a student, don't pick the subject randomly, but try to see the role model, I would say, or the mentor, like the person you want to be in the future, and then work on it, put the plan for it. This is the key thing, because I've seen people studying math and then they switch to digital marketing and then they switch to something else. This kind of gives them you need to explore yourself, know yourself, what's your ability, what's the best for you. That's the best advice. I would say don't go with if somebody advises you, like you need to study cybersecurity, I don't know, or some other, that doesn't mean that's the right thing for you. You know yourself better than anyone else. That's the big idea. Second one, I would say, engage with the students, engage with your doctors. They're gonna be supportive to you. No, like you cannot imagine the limit of supports that you can get. It's absolutely unlimited. And also, and the last thing, I would say, read more. Like prepare yourself. Always prepare yourself. That's the key advice to success in your studies.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, as Nader was one of my students, that's definitely how you get the success that Nader had. So well done on that.
Just to follow up on what you said, Nadir, sometimes students, they get feedback from their assignments or whatever, and actually sometimes they find it hard to like deal with perhaps negative feedback. What would be your argument to embrace it?
No, definitely. Look, in the first place, it's nothing personal. That's the first thing, right? So any feedback, I actually don't call it feedback. I would call it feed forward. So you've done a mistake. This is how you learn your life. You do a mistake and then you learn from it and then you go forward. So if you had any feedback from your doctor, the program director, doesn't mean that you're doing things bad. They're just trying to help you because they want the best for you. That's the key idea that they need to embrace and then capitalize on. That's the key thing. Listen to their advice. They're going to be really helpful. Ask them like, right, I'm trying to do it this way. Do you have a better advice? They will be your mentor at some point. They would really be your mentor. And I don't think anybody would be hesitating being a mentor, or even on a personal matters, like how to do the time management, how to do the managing the workload, the study load. They would help you. They would give you advice on that as well, beyond the subject itself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's a great start.
Yeah,
back to you, Annabella.
It's exactly what we try to tell our students, but it means so much more coming from you as an alumni, that you echo what we always tell them. This is about improvement, and it's improvement in terms of yourself as a person, as an individual, but it's much more improvement in terms of the outcomes that you want to achieve. And for you to be able to achieve excellent results, our role is to encourage you to get there, and our role is to feed forward, as you say, so help you understand what could be improved in this so that next time you do it better.
100%.
Yes,
100%.
Chris.
Yeah, so I like what you mentioned there about talking to other students as well, and you were in a cohort that is kind of particular in the way that it's very international. So can you tell us maybe a bit more about this experience you had in linking and connecting with individuals from so many different countries?
Definitely. Look, in the first instance, like going to UWE and the study approach at UWE, I still remember the lesson that we have and the workshop that we have. Like there's a lecture, there is a workshop for each module, more or less, I would say. So the purpose of the lecture and the workshop is actually to connect with other students. This is what is going to happen in your real life. When you start your career, you're not going to work in silo. You're going to engage with others. You're going to need other ideas. You're going to communicate with people. At some point, if there is no chemistry, or I would say harmony between you and the team, you would need to build it, because you cannot change it. That's the reality that you're going to live in real life. So you need to put yourself under the pressure to, I would say, adjust, and I would say work hard on the social intelligence and communication intelligence with others, because sometimes the same message cannot be understood the same by every one of the team members. So you need to tailor your communication, social intelligence with everyone, and try to understand what's their fears, why they are resisting to collaborate with you. And that always happening in the workshop and the group works and assignments that we always get. This is, I would say, step one to collaborate to start the career, because this is how work is when you start the job.
Exactly. It's exactly what mimics what happens in real life, isn't it? So you're going to have to deal with those same situations, particularly if you're working for international companies, and nowadays majority of companies have relationships with suppliers and customers from all around the world. So you can't really escape unless you work for a very small local company that you have no international customers or suppliers. You're bound to have to do exactly what you just described.
100%. I would just mention a small example here. Like that was in a semester one when we started. We had with a business strategy. We had kind of that was in a business management. We had a group assignment, right? And then with that particular one, we had really international students from Spain, China, Malaysia, Vietnam, myself. So we had a group of 5. On that sense, I realized like I'm explaining to the team what is actually needed to be done, but I'm getting different results. But I try to have the same communication with everyone individually and try to understand them. Sometimes going with the social intelligence, like they might be shy, they might be introvert, they might be like a fear of fail. You need to factor all these kind of, I would say, obstacles that could have happened between the communication and the group communication. And then eventually we got like a really amazing mark with that assignment. So sometimes you need to try different ways to communicate with the team, factoring the difference in terms of the personality, the characters, and the culture as well. Background plays a big role.
Big lesson there. Great.
Yes, absolutely. And the advice that you're giving and how you are explaining this also shows us all the good markers of an excellent leader that you are already and will continue to be in your future career. But it shows us that you have that. Those are all the characteristics that we see in great leaders to be able to take teams forward to accomplish successful outcomes. So it's really lovely to hear that and to hear that we play the part in helping you develop further those skills. So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth into your role, actually, and what you're doing right now, to understand a little bit more about the day-to-day operation. So what kind of job or jobs are you involved with on your day-to-day role?
Certainly. Look, as I said, I currently work with a semi-government company. It's called Indeal. So what does Indeal do? So we're under the umbrella of the Ministry of Industrial and Minerals in Saudi Arabia. So there is an authority for building the industrial cities where all factories, like they have a specific zones, they can build their own factories there. You know, Saudi Arabia economic is really evolving and there is tremendous change. And I would really take the opportunity to invite you and everyone listening to this podcast to come and visit Saudi. It's really easy these days. So you can explore the culture and Saudi Arabia, how amazing it is and evolving. So in Saudi Arabia, there are, I would say, a strategy to diversify the economy, shifting from like the Saudi economy used to be capitalizing only on the oil industry. That's it. And the petrochems and so on. That's been for decades. But since Saudi is shifting towards Vision 2030, diversifying the let's say the portfolio of the income for the government, they started to pick up more on tourism, on the investment, foreign direct investment, and And the industry is one of the key elements of any other country in the world. Saudi Arabia is, again, within the G20, and then they're picking up on the industrial sector. So to do that, the industrial sector needs to be, I would say, more effective in terms of like supply chain, in terms of the sales channel, in terms of the whole supply chain, I would say the value chain across the board of the industrial sector. So today, what do we do at Indeal? So we have many Saudi factories. They have brilliant products made in Saudi, purely made in Saudi, with a premium quality that is really world-class, I would say, standards. These products cannot be actually seen unless you reach out to that specific, or vice versa, like one-to-one communication. So what we are actually building is, I would say, a marketplace for Saudi factories to place their products on the online platform. And then from there, you sell your products. But you as a factory, you need to have an inbound logistics, like you need to buy a raw material to produce the product, and then you sell that product. So there is an inbound logistics and there is an outbound logistics, all involved within the supply chain. So we offer that within what we do. We link the factory's demand and supply together throughout a digital platform. And also we are enabling the Saudi manufacturers to distribute their products locally, to explore new markets in Saudi Arabia locally and internationally. We have been in India 2 months ago, actually, promoting the Saudi food products. And we have seen the appetite for the Indian markets buying the Saudi products. So this is kind of like what we do. It's a digital marketplace. It's an online where the factories can place their products, sell and buy raw materials, and collaborate in Saudi Arabia.
That's amazing, and what a great initiative. I just to make it a little bit easier for our current students, particularly those that are still in their first year or their second year of their degree, just to make it easier for them to understand. It's a little bit like the Amazon for companies. So it's
Yes.
a marketplace where the companies can go to buy their raw materials, to see and to sell as well their own.
100%.
So just for them to understand. So it's not the same as you, the final consumer, but it's the company itself involved in that transaction.
It's a factory to factory. It's a B2B. Yes, what you're saying is exactly right. It's a B2B. And there is one thing you could probably use or not use. It's up to you. But there is when you talk about the categories between the B2B, B2C, B2G, like business government. There is a Julian. He's a very smart reader. He's a very smart author, actually, of a book. It's called Ecosystemizer. Okay. So he defines the needs for the human. Eventually, it's kind of like a spectrum around it. Like there is a multiple sectors. I can share these details with you later on. But he said, whatever is happening around you, it's all about E to H, right? So what we're doing at Indeal is E to H, which is eventually, we talk about ecosystem to human. So like education, it's all about E to H. Health sector is all about E to H. Ecosystem to a human, because the human is the end beneficiary of any end product that's going to be produced. So it's an E to H, a new definition, I would say, which is really innovative.
Yeah.
Try to interject there. So Nadia, you talked about business to business, and you guys are a platform in terms of how you guys do. So that's typical of any industry dynamics. You talked about the fact that you are the country itself, it wants to diversify its range of offerings, so your dependence on oil move away to other things. And so you are a quasi-government organization, so you're independent of yourselves. Can you talk to me about the dynamics that you see in your particular industry? Because it feels like you are dealing with levels of different size businesses at the same time, as well as international export. What do you think are the supply and demand sort of tensions that's going on, or how do you feel that you can make that grow?
Look, there is definitely a huge demand when it comes to the. I mean, today, like, let me simplify the answer. Today, if you talk about the business size, definitely there is a classification, whether it's like an enterprise, large, medium, small, and even micro, small and micro. So there is all kind of I would say needs for each. So what you need to do is you cannot sell like a single message across the board. That's will not help you to go forward, right? So what we actually do is we try to have a one-to-one workshops with the each category, I would say, or majority of the categories. We pick them randomly, whether it's on a phone or meet with them. We try to understand their pain points in the market. It's kind of like two ways communication. So we understand what's their pain point, and then we offer them the solution that we're currently helping them. And then based on that conclusion, we tailor our messages when we go to the public. So it's kind of help give us a better understanding of the depth of the problem, or the problem statement, let's call it this way, and to be able to help them better. So this is what we actually do.
Yeah, so you're almost like a facilitator. You basically are like sort of accelerating business for the country. It's sort of like your objective, or
I would say we're not a facilitator. We are an orchestrator.
Orchestrator. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain.
So what we do is orchestrating between, like, let's say there is a small factory, right? This small factory doesn't have a fleet management or even a fleet to sell their products. So we sign up with a fleet management aggregator, and then we offer this service to that small factory who cannot buy the fleet and run it.
Yeah.
So whenever he needs to send his product across the GCC or Saudi or even internationally, with a click of a button, he can send his products on demand. So he's kind of like, it's a win-win situation. So he's selling his product on demand. He doesn't have any liabilities on him or contracts or needs to go with a good negotiation. We are linking the service provider with the demand to meet the demand and supply at the end of the day.
Right.
What an interesting.
Just to follow up, have you had any different challenges? Because I guess Saudi Arabia is in a unique position where they have a lot of money, but to make all these other industries grow, that is not, I guess, typical of other economies, I guess. Is there anything that you think are Saudi specific to your particular industry?
Yeah, look, this is a great question, actually. At the end of the day, it's not about the money, trust me. Like, even if you meet somebody like from anywhere around the world, he has a lots of fortune of money, but he doesn't get the right education, you will have a communication barrier between you and him. So money is not everything. Let's start with this. But what I would start with is the new category enrollment. This is something new, right? So when I say new category, I would take a small example, like 15 years ago or 14 years ago, when Uber introduced to the market, to the people.
Yeah.
You normally go out to the streets and then you stop the taxi and ride.
The taxi.
That's it. But when Uber came in, they introduced a new market for you, right? So it takes time for you to adapt and everyone to understand the value of using Uber, right? It might cost you a bit more than the usual taxi, but it's covering the convenience for you. It covers
it's a higher value proposition.
100%. So they're solving a problem for you instead of going out while it's raining in UK, because you never know the weather in the UK. So instead of going out and wait for the taxi, it could be like quick solution. When he arrives, you go down. And the same thing for us. We are defining a new market segment. We are coming up with a new, I would say, value proposition for the industry itself. So this is, I would say, the challenge for us, to educate people about this new platform, about this new category.
It can be realized. So
100%.
You guys, you can clearly see it, but the whole of the, I guess, population needs to realize this. And you guys are trying to do that. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, can I just come back on here, because I think that's a very interesting proposition that you have there. And I know that Chris is itching to come in to talk about innovation, but I'm still going to stick with operations and supply, just to say that kind of proposition you're putting forward is a new way of companies to do outsourcing and their own make or buy decisions. So you are a new offer in terms of managing supply chain relationships. So, but it's more than being just an intermediary. As you said, you are an orchestrator. So it's almost like you are combining this concept of managing supply chain relationships and servitization, which is where manufacturing companies go beyond just a physical product and they sell services as well, or they provide an advance through services. So I find that is really interesting that your offer complements the manufacturing companies, giving them that servitized offer without them having to develop that servitized offer, which is something
100%.
that is quite an interesting idea. So that's where I wanted to come in with the whole adding value and the high value proposition. Yes, because you are giving them the services they need to succeed, and it's the servitization and product service system in literature has proven that this is what adds value to manufacturing companies and continued profit.
Look, not just that. I would take Chris' question here, and then I'll add further.
Please answer. I'll jump in after. But if there's anything you wanted to contribute.
Okay, so what we're talking about is not only the supply chain. What we're offering is way beyond. It's literally way beyond what you imagine. So at Endeal, we are having the marketplace, the digital marketplace for matching the demand and supply. That's our core business. That's our mandate. Yeah, this is what we live for. But to be able to drive the traffic to the platform, so tomorrow, like if we meet with an enterprise, they know their clients, they sign a contracts like 5 years to supply them with XYZ, and so on and so on. They don't need to use our services. If the problem is to find the demand and supply, they might be sorted. But what we actually do, we do the support function for them. We have a dual pillar. We have the marketplace and we have the digital solution. With the digital solution, what we do is something called the multiple offering, including the, I would say, the compliance, safety compliance. We do the insurance. We do managed services. We do the assets utilization for the unutilized assets. This is going to be where I would say, you'd be interested to hear that. On the enterprise factories, they normally have either over spare parts stock or under. It's always, they cannot figure it out exactly what they have. That's one. And also they have a production lines that is actually set on hold, just in case, if and when. If something happened, we switch to that, I would say, the production line.
Yeah.
Some factories,
supply chain resilience.
Exactly, for the supply chain resilience. That's exactly the word. So what we do with that, we have a platform or a service where imagine today, I'm a factory for this bottle of water. I'm not going to show the brand. So I'm the factory for that kind of a brand, yeah? So if I got a contract only for seasonal, because seasonalities in Saudi Arabia plays a big role these days. So if that factory got like an unusual order, that will never be sustainable. Like this is going to be one time. They got like really beyond their capacity. That factory A will go through our platform and see who is other water factories that they have a production line on hold. They can rent it. So he get to use the benefit of that production line. That one monetizes his asset that is set and idle. Or even the same can be applied for the spare part. We do the 3D printing spare parts. So to increase the resilience for the supply chain when it comes, especially like for the international supply chain, when it comes to the spare parts, sometimes it takes months. So with the 3D printing, it takes weeks. So this is part of the solution. So that enterprise, if they are sorted when it comes to the demand and supply, they would still need to use our other digital solutions.
Yeah, and I think that links beautifully with two things. One is helping companies to monetize their extra capacity. So that means that it's a win-win situation for everyone. And secondly, the fact that the majority of the literature nowadays is linking servitization with digitalization. So correct. Being able to combine these two things to add value again, but usually you would be discussing this within the context of a manufacturing company. And what you're doing here is creating a whole new ecosystem. Exactly. Where companies can come together to benefit together from that combination of the servitized offer and the digitalization, which I find absolutely amazing. And I'm going to shut up and ask only two questions. One is, can we please do a case study of your company afterwards? Because I think your company is absolutely amazing and I'm loving it. And second of all, sorry, Chris, your turn.
You asked second of all, and now you have to say what.
No, it was second of all is asking sorry. Saying sorry.
Let me answer you. Can you do the case study? I just need to check with with the company and come back to you. But you may need to do a case study about my personal business that I'm currently running in the UK. So if you have enough time, I can take you through that. But now the mic to you, Chris.
No, I just fascinating stuff, and just kind of so much that leads to interesting concepts in innovation as well. Just to give a tiny bit of background, of course, most students who start on innovation modules think of innovation as the new iPhone, the new products, essentially. The fewer ones will think about new services. And typically there's many more categories of types of innovation. What you have shown, or what you're showing within Deal, is what we call paradigm innovation, as in innovation that is changing the way we think about something. As you gave the example of Uber, as Annabella was talking about servitization as a new mode of thinking, in Deal is actually applying a new platform innovation as part of a mindset or context, a new way to think around how to support businesses in supply chain management. So very interesting example. So just to highlight that your business itself is a different type of category of innovation. But I would also want to ask you, within this organization, within the business, what would you think are drivers of those new ideas and those new innovations, new changes that you're introducing in the business?
There is, like, I would say the pain points in the market. It's an insight, right? So you cannot ignore an insight. So if there is a demand, or I would put it this way, if there is a will, there is a way. Yeah. So no, 100%. Like if there is a will, like you're willing to develop your problem, you need to work on that to find the solution for that problem. So you're willing to join this platform with that platform. So the main driver normally for the innovation is the pain. If there is a pain, if there is a demand, then there is a validation for the concept, and then you go further with the I would say the innovation. And this is what actually the R&D normally in each companies do. So the research and development, they would see the insights, the demand, what's the behavior going, and then they try to identify what is the potential opportunity. So I'll give you a very brief example of the food delivery applications. You probably know many of them operating currently in the UK, the orange one, the green one, and others. So these applications, I would say if I put myself as a restaurant, right? So I'm subscribing to this and this and this delivery application, right? But I need to have many devices on my desk, which is taking space. Here where it comes the innovation. So somebody will come and pick this up. They will do an API integration between all of these applications, and they will have a single, I would say, integration with the, like, kind of plugged the two ways. So they came up with the solution because at some point you would really go to the restaurant and you see many devices on that restaurant, that this is for the orange, this is for the green, this is for the red application, and so on. So the list goes on. But when it comes to one person, will develop one device that work across the board, taking their commission. This is where the innovation comes. There is a need, there is an insight, there is a research and development. He came up with a solution. It's feasible. It's viable for everyone. This is the innovation. I would try. I would do it this way. So insights, pain, and the solution.
Great. I think Mo has something.
Yeah,
to add.
Nader, can I? This is fascinating. Can I drill you down into the mechanics of it all? Because it feels like, if I'm just put myself in this, it's very overwhelming. So can you talk to us about your team? How do you decide what to go with what and how things go? How do you exchange the ideas? Because you might have an idea that, one of your team members hasn't, and how do you exchange? How do you make sure? How do you do it? The how is what I would really want to figure out. How do you sort of transfer an inception of that idea to something that's workable on your platform, and how do you make it work? And the processes that go into all of that.
No, definitely. Look, I always encourage my team members to make mistakes. That's what I normally do with them with the induction session. I would say, look, you're here to make mistakes, as long as not deliberate. Yeah. So the key thing to learn is to make a mistake. No, for real, guys. This is really for real. Like if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're actually not doing the work. You're not going to do the work. because there is a barrier and there is a fear of getting the guilt involved in the situation. But if you have that confidence, you will have a creativity, and then this is where creativity will comes. You'll make problems, that's not an issue, you know, as long as we can contain it. Something wrong, if you deliver late, that's a like mistakes will always happen on the big scale to the small scale. That's a fact of life. We are not perfectionists here. We only focus on to deliver work. So the first one I encourage my team is make mistakes. That's not an issue. Make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. We learn why not, because at some point, if somebody would make a mistake and then you would go hard on them, they will feel like they're left out, or they will never engage. They will less engage with you. So they might have a brilliant ideas, but they cannot deliver it because of that, I would say, moment of the, you know, the guilt or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So making mistakes is a key thing. Number two is we're open to take on ideas as long as this can enhance our work. So I always encourage the team members to think critically, right? So if there is an idea in mind, explain to me how you are going to do it. And then if we do it, what should we expect from that idea? So I'm trying to map it with the logic, because if we're going to do something for the sake of doing it without any science or back behind it, it's not going to make sense. But I always train them to read insights, see what's the current problem and how you do it. It always makes sense. And this is how they can develop their skills, because at some point, I mean, all of you on the podcast and others, they will be a leaders. So you cannot take any information from somebody, from your team members, and just go with it. You need to make sure that there has been validation.
What you're describing is what we call dynamic capabilities, in terms of sensing, seizing, transforming, where team members are allowed to, what happens if we do it this way? Or I just seen this in the market, trying to keep one eye on what we're trying to be competent at, and as well as keep an eye on the industry to make what we are good at relevant to what the market actually wants. So so it's like the culture of just being able to, let's have a go, let's see. But then the idea, the important thing you said about learning from that, I think, so that fits that literature so well. Sorry, Annabella.
No, I just wanted to chip in that it also aligns with what we try to encourage our students to do, which is being critical in when they are writing their assessments. And you said a couple of important things that I want to highlight. Yourself as a manager, you encourage your people to make mistakes. You encourage your people to think about the how, why, and that's exactly what we want our students to think about when they're thinking about their assignments and writing them, is considering, I'm making this recommendation for this business to solve this problem, but what are the references that I'm using? What evidence am I using to convince this manager that this is a reliable solution? So focusing on the what, the why should I do it, and how should I do it? The answer to those three questions is really important. And you've also highlighted that that's what you're looking for when your team members come to you with ideas.
Exactly.
Because it needs to be feasible, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like at the end of the day, they need to be prepared when they go on. Like what I normally do, I tend to push them to the edge, right? So that gives them the confidence of dealing with all kind of elements.
I like to say, not physically. I'm just going to put it.
Yes.
I'm just going to put it out there.
Disclaimer.
No,
you challenge them, I think, is
No, what I normally do, I tend to show my team to the top management. Yeah, so I sit with the CEO, I sit with the board members, and we discuss business ideas, and I want them to be involved. I don't want them to be left out. I want them to feel like they're part of this. They're taking the credit, because giving the credit is absolutely a key thing. So giving them the credit, giving them the opportunity to explain their ideas to the leaders at the company, it gives them the I would say the loyalty. They feel like they are engaged, they are part of the journey. So when I explain to them something, we're changing the strategy this way or that direction, I explain to them why we're doing it and how we're doing it, and then month by month I show them the progress to keep them engaged, of like, you are part of the change that we're doing. So your role is so important for us. So no matter how small or big what kind of your contribution is, but it's still relevant in making that change. So this is kind of the thing. But yes, definitely not to the physical push.
But it sounds like you're like what they call an entrepreneur. You're very entrepreneurial in your management style. You foster ideas, and maybe for every 10 ideas, 5 are really successful and 5 are not. And from your perspective, you see that both all 10 are successful because you sort of went through the whole process of it all.
Definitely. Look,
Yeah.
the key thing here is the time management. Yeah. So if we're talking about a project for 3 months time, yeah. So we start from today. We don't leave it to the last minute. We start even like small bit today, small bit tomorrow. It will end up having the full project delivered. So time management is an essential skill to the team to absorb. Some of them, they say like, look, it's too early to work on it now, but never too early, because you never know next week what do we have, what kind of like an emergency you would probably have, or myself I would have. So do it today. Don't leave it to the last minute, because last minute it will be not a good outcome, honestly.
That's very interesting, Nader, because it also relates to how leadership links to innovation very much in your person and the way the business itself actually functions. What you mentioned right at the start when we're talking about how to engage with other international students, you said you have to communicate clearly with each of them to get the message across. When you were talking about how the business communicates to its different target markets and different business sizes and different functions, you have to have a clear message to them that is catered to their needs. So it's very interesting how essentially the focus that Mo just mentioned on you as an entrepreneur is almost I mean, your strength is not only in your qualities, but as also a mirror and a facilitator of communication and of the flow of ideas within the organization. And I think that's that's wonderful. It's great to see an example of that. Would you say that there's anything that maybe are there any obstacles to those flows of ideas in your current organization, and how do you kind of go around that? Do you see any challenges in changing things and new ideas?
No, definitely. Look, probably I would say the GRC, that term is going to governance, compliance, governance, compliance, and risk. That normally would be kind of like the framework that you cannot go out of it. So this is sometimes not changing, or it's not an obstacle. It's something you need to comply with. So it depends. If somebody worked for pure private sector, the GRC would be a bit more flexible. But when it comes to the government, there is, I would say, highly regarded the GRC, especially because you need to go through that by the book. So there is no cutting corners, there is no shortcuts, and so on. This could affect sometimes the delivery, but doesn't really affect the outcome, because the mandate of the company is innovation. So innovation is a key thing. But probably instead of doing this within a month, it could take to 2 months. Sometimes.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a quality assurance process to make sure it fits with all your
governance.
regulations.
It's beyond the quality. Governance is beyond the quality. It's
Okay.
I would say the governance is more or less, there is a policies for the company that you need to follow. So if you have a specific request to order from outside, let's say out of the company, there is a specific way to do it, and that could take probably 1 week, 10 days. That could take time. So, but if you are on a pure private sector, you could do it like you send an email yourself. You don't need to go and communicate with different department. So that different department will do it on their own way as per the book. So this could be. I'm not gonna say I'm not.
So is that because of your I think you said use the word mandate for your organization. I guess you're not solely a profit-making organization. You have a mandate to better the country. And within that, there's a framework that you have to sort of abide by while trying to be innovative, some type of freedom within a framework, for lack of a better term. Is that more accurate?
I would say yes and no. Okay. Yes, but yes, actually.
Explain. Love it. Explain.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're a private company. So at some point, we need to generate revenue and we need to be more sustainable. So we're depending on the certain funds from the government, the full fund actually from the government and the private sector. However, at some point, we need to pick up on that and then make the business sustainable, where we need to generate money. But this links to the company's strategy. which is something will be within a couple of years, we will start generating money. But how we are going to do this, what we're currently do is creating a value for our customers, right? And we're promising them with a value. Once they are onboarded, they will realize that we will realize that value for them. So the value impact will happen once they commit. So if we put it two different ways, on this side, you would be promised, like, if you joined us, you will get this kind of a benefit. But if you actually join us, if you start to see that benefit is happening for you, it's most likely hard for you to leave us, because you start to depend on us. So this is where we will start doing the money generation by subscription, premium, and so on, so on.
Straight away, there's the idea of sort of strategy process in which there's an intended strategy and how that's realized and the roads to go there. That's exactly what you described there. Also, the idea of organizational model. So they've got the private sector, then clearly public sector, where like government organizations, this sort of non-government organizations. And it feels like your model is like you're starting with one model with a sense to transition to another, and you're almost thinking about it from the inception, which is great. And there's different versions of that depending on which country it goes. That is what is the intended timeline to achieve the end goal to be a totally private sector?
At the end of the day, what is required here at this company to make it success? So the proof of concept is there, the MVP is there. Now we start to promise the value and we start to create value for the customers. And now we need to achieve that value that we promised you, right? So I'll take it as a small example. I was promised if I joined UWE, I will become a creative because I'm going to get this and that. And then I joined UWE and now I'm achieving.
So in that sense, we fulfill the obligations. Oh, that's great. No, brilliant. No, thank you so much for elaborating. I'll hand it back to Annabella.
Yeah, I wanted to bring back to exactly what you just said. You now mentioned UWE again, and I wanted to bring you back just to ask you, from the ideas, the concepts, the theories that you've learned at UWE, was there anything that really stuck with you in whichever discipline? It might have been strategy, it might have been innovation, or any of the other modules and things you've learned at UWE. Was there anything that stuck with you that you have been finding really useful, or that you keep going back to, or that it surprised you at the time when you were learning it?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I would genuinely say all modules that I have took through the study journey that I've got with the UWE is absolutely useful. Okay, so was it memorable? Yes. Business project, business innovation, business management, international marketing, business simulation, strategy, all of it, it's kind of like a puzzle, you know, but when you put it all together, you will get the real value. And when you see the big picture, like how this is all goes aligned together. So yes, there is a huge value of the marketing and the business and the strategy and simulation. It is absolutely brilliant. I would put it like a puzzle. Like some students, they would ask why we're taking that module and why we're taking this module. Change management, for example, that is the most controversial module that used to be on my class, at least I would say. It was really controversial because the students, they were argue like, why do we need it? Probably personally, I have a different views on that. I would say I would take it differently if I'm going to go about the change management. But I understand there is a science called change management. And it was within the core modules and I took it and then I succeeded. That's it. I delivered the job. Now, how I make sure that this is fit the puzzle, it definitely does. Because all companies, organizations, they reach out to a level of maturity where they need to do change management, top down, down top. They will go through the science behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a beautiful way to kind of conclude this podcast. And I know that colleagues have a few other questions, so I'm going to pass it to Chris. But I think that I refer to my own module that I teach students as a puzzle. I agree with you. Everything in business is a puzzle. You can't learn everything in one go, and that's why at university we break it apart to make it easier for you to understand the ecosystem that we've continuously talked about throughout this conversation. But without the parts, you can't understand the whole. So even though it's something you might not enjoy, you might not like, it's still something you need to learn to understand the bigger picture. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense.
100%.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, another. Since we were talking about going back to UWE and all these topics, maybe a question that would lead to the end of this is, what if you could go back to UWE now? What would be something you would be doing differently, or what would you change in your approach to your studies?
I cannot claim that I've done everything perfectly. There is always a lesson learned. I would put it this way. So I probably wasn't too involved in studying in library at some point. I wasn't at some point doing everything as per, like, I wasn't preparing all my lectures, like especially the strategy. I used to prepare it because otherwise I'll be left out. But I would do the same with all modules. Like I would prepare before I would read about it. I would read